This is the Café con Podcast.
Hey!
I knew that was coming.
I'm Isaac.
And I'm
And-
George. And
This is the Café con Podcast.
that was good. That was really good. was really
Oh,
good.
shit. Man, today we sat down and had well, I guess she was drinking mushroom tea. I don't remember what the brand is, but she's drinking mushroom tea with Sophie Jordan Collins. She was awesome. It was such a pleasure to get to meet her and to just kick it with her for a little bit. She's an actress, she's a writer, she's a producer. She does everything, especially after just kind of looking her up. And you guys just look her up, Sophie Jordan Collins. She has a podcast as well called Acting Like an Actor. And one thing that I really appreciate from it that she talks about is how she is trying to not be like the gatekeeper of acting in the industry. She's trying to debunk everything that everybody talks about. So if anybody ever wants to be an actor, they have practical ways of going about it. It's very helpful. Please check it out. She's super articulate. She's just a sweetheart to just even like get to speak with, and very sweet soul. Just an all around really great person. But she said something, what we were just talking about at the end there, that was really beautiful about our podcast, which was, she said, thanks for doing what you guys do, because it really is just like two bros having coffee. And a lot of people are lonely out there, and I'm sure that they like being able to share that time with you. So that leads me to say, we love you guys. Seriously, we love you guys for even listening. For all of you little
Whoever it
cafecitos
is
that listen, I think that's a good name for people. Cafecitos, we'll think about it maybe. Pilonitos, bustelitos, little everything. We just love you guys. We thank you for support. We're here for you. That's another thing. We hope that this little thing that we do brings some sense of joy, growth, inspiration, positivity, intentionality, break. Maybe it's just like a break from the day that you need. Hope that you guys enjoy this little break, or maybe you're cleaning around the house, listening to it, whatever, man. I just know that life can definitely be difficult. So if our conversations do anything to help you, we love you and God bless you. So anyways, that's I just think that what she said there at the end was really beautiful. And yeah, man, I love you too, Doc. This has been like such a blessing. We're back. We're back. So what did you take from this one, Doc? Before I kind of go into everything that we kind of talked about, what did you take from it?
basically what you said, how it goes hand in hand. The idea popped out in my mind. Like, what stuck out to me really was when she mentioned abundance. So that goes hand in hand with her not trying to gatekeep, because you realize there's an abundance of things that can be done in the industry she's in, or and like you can apply that to life too. There's abundance of things that can be done in life that you don't have to gatekeep, or you don't have to feel like one situation or even gig will make or break the rest of your career. Like you said, it's not about that one gig, it's the 20 you did in the next couple years or so. So I have a book actually called Abundance, and it talks about that. I've yet to read it. I bought it a while back.
In college, didn't you?
When
we were in college?
Remember?
I bought it in college. Lucas was reading it.
I'd bring it to your place all the time, yeah. And it touches base on that. I think it's more has to do with like society in this realm of like
materials
and like
specific materials in society. Like, we're running out of this,
like
we're running out of that.
And stuff like that. Yeah, sustainability. But that can really be applied to anything. And kind of what our boy Kyle says, he's like, I'd rather be optimistic and wrong than pessimistic and right, because then it's just like you drive yourself crazy. Shout out to Kyle. He got me this hat.
I was going to say, nice Masters hat. He got me one too. I love that hat.
Nice Masters.
But you match it well.
I don't wear it much, but
I don't wear it that much either, because I don't have anything that matches with it, because it's so green. You know what I mean? So I'm like, what can I wear this with? But I like what you're doing with it. It looks good. Maybe with the gray.
I'm going to wear it today. I'm going to see him soon for Super Bowl. So.
And so we cover a wide variety of topics on this episode, from
Mhm.
her upbringing to when she moved out here at 18 to California from Michigan,
Mhm.
what her expectations were versus what the realities are now, how she deals with rejection, how she deals with the silent rejections, what she looks for in jobs. What are some things she will say no to? She talks about everything. She's very open. She's very pointed. She's very, like I said, she's articulate about what she's talking about. Again, man, we've had a lot of distinct privileges of speaking with young people as well as some older people, but
Mhm.
young people
Mhm.
that I'm so impressed with just the way that they're going about their business. Hustlers. She's a hustler.
Mhm.
That's something else she talks about.
An optimistic hustler. That's what
Hot,
I called her.
yes, great,
Like
great,
she doesn't hustle from fear because
correct.
that's more common than we think. People hustle because of fear of not succeeding or making ends meet. But I think she just never forgot that she really enjoys acting in the process of acting, like doing your homework, reading your lines, falling into that character, and because she went at such a young age, and she even said it, she went through a lot of tough things, but and she never lost sight of why
Yeah,
she's doing it because she likes it too much. There was no way of her losing sight. So that was a
yeah,
beautiful
man.
thing to hear.
She's very inspirational young lady. Like she was great, man. It was a great episode. And so this episode, let's review. Before, I don't even want to say anything else about it. I just want you guys to listen to it. But this episode was brought to you by Reverent Coffee.
Revenant.
Reverent. And I'm drinking their Kenya blend. Shout out Africa. Their Kenya blend. And I know that we've been trying to do this a little bit. And then I want you to talk about your coffee, how I was dealing with you today.
Can you blend me some
Hey,
Kenya blend?
Can you blend me some Kenya blend? That's
They're gonna have to
funny.
pay us for that one.
Uh,
Revenant, we will be in
Reverent,
touch with you
not The
soon.
Revenant. The Revenant is the movie that Leonardo DiCaprio won his Oscar for. So,
But I butchered that plug right there.
no, it's like Les Mis. You guys talking about Les Miserables?
Lemons.
Yes, that's the best, bro. It was awesome. This Kenya blend me some Kenya. Oh my god, this is the fucking worst intro ever, bro.
Isaac loves his
I do,
coffee
bro.
brands, and it's a
I
real thing,
think
guys. Okay, so if you're listening, it's
this
a
one
real
I'm gonna
thing.
give it like a
It's not
like a
no hoopla.
7
Oh yeah,
7
one
to
out of 10.
7
Okay, here we go.
9. I'd say.
I almost
Yeah,
forgot to
I'm
ask
gonna
you.
give this one like in the high sevens.
It's
In
up
the high
there. That's up
sevens.
there compared to all
I
the other
had
ones you've
another
done.
one earlier that
What about it?
I think it's like in the high sevens because it was smooth. I'm thinking about it now. It was smooth. I'm thinking like it didn't give me that punch, but it also could be because of where I am today. That I went to sleep pretty late last night, so maybe that has something to
Okay.
do with it. I got a good amount of sleep.
Well, how's the flavor?
Flavor was decent. I think this one has
Oh,
notes of bourbon and chocolate. I took a picture of the bag,
mm,
and
okay.
if those are the notes, then I think that it's absolutely. Hold on. Yeah, so blueberry, kiwi, mango, and chocolate. Yeah,
Whoa.
and it had that. That's the crazy thing, man. The crazy thing about their coffee is that I actually can like taste that and I can smell it. So again, Reverent Coffee Company in Oakhurst, California. You can order it. They'll ship it to you on their website, reverentcoffeecompany.com. They're not telling me to say this. I just love their coffee. And I also want to shout out these glasses. These are some of the best glasses I've ever had. These are from Salt, right? And they're in Studio City. Wow. They're Japanese brand, Japanese made. Just the whole process and where they make it, the way they described it to me was a lot of people make glasses as just like an accessory that people wear. These are made as medical devices, so they literally fit to your face. They make them specifically to the way that like your eye structure is, the hood of your eyes, where your ears are in terms of your face, the bridge of your all these things. They take all these things into account that you think they do in other places, but it takes a while for them to make I think it's steel or titanium that they do in Japan. Everything is sourced from
Mm.
Japan. I love these glasses. These are my favorite glasses I've ever had. Salt. So those are the two things that I wanted to say. How was your coffee?
Good old espresso in the house. Just put a little bit of milk in it. The honey was frozen, which is probably a blessing in disguise because
You,
some clean coffee with a little bit of
oh,
milk.
you didn't put honey in it.
I sometimes put honey in it. Yeah.
What do you mean the
sometimes
honey
put
was
in it
frozen?
if I
You
don't
guys put your honey
sugar.
bottles in your freezer?
It was in the fridge. It's just the fridge was really cold. You know,
all
Florida
right,
fridge is, you know, Florida
yeah,
refrigerators. I was ready to put it. I was like, yes, honey, and then it
I
was
like
like
honey
not
and
moving.
coffee. I've had honey and coffee before too. Yeah,
It's good.
so
I tend to now, from time to time, like randomly, like when I go in the garage and I see a honey in there, I'll squeeze some on my tongue and then like just let it just taste a little bit
good
and
for
then
you.
drink some water maybe after because it's a nice little, you know,
We gotta
natural
have a
sugar.
little cafecito, another cafecito, 30-minute,
I was gonna
because
say
we're
that.
getting
I
into
was
some
gonna say that.
tangents now that are better deserved for another episode.
Yeah. Guys, let us know what you
Yes,
wanted to hear on that one,
yes,
if
please.
anything. You
Okay,
know,
so without further ado, this is Sophie Jordan Collins. We love you guys. Thank you. Peace and love as always.
love
This
you
is on
guys,
Super Bowl Sunday, so enjoy the
and
Super Bowl. We love you guys
don't
always.
forget.
And don't you ever forget.
This is the Cafe con Podcast.
I'll never get old.
Thank you
Yeah.
for hopping on.
Thank you for having me.
spending-
I'm very hyped. I was watching and listening to all of your guys' episodes yesterday, so ready for that.
Well, thank you, and we're sorry. I don't know. You know, one or
It's
the
good.
other.
I love how candid it is. Do you guys edit these or no?
Not a
It
lot.
depen-
Not
it
really.
depends.
No. Like,
No, we don't really. George
no.
handles all of that, but it depends. You know, like if somebody that we have on says something that they don't necessarily want to be out there, or they're like, I don't know anything,
Yeah.
we'll go back. You know, this shouldn't feel. We always say this. It shouldn't feel like a chore. You know, it shouldn't
Right.
feel like it's something that's a burden to somebody. So we just really want to make it just really just calm, intentional conversations, kind of like
Yeah.
we're just kicking it at a coffee shop. That's kind of the whole
Yeah.
point. Which brings me to this, because I've been waiting for this moment. Cheers.
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 This is what gets me started.
Cheers.
Cheers. Mm.
What coffee are you guys drinking?
Oh, that's good. Ooh.
It's an espresso machine in my house.
Okay.
I'm drinking Reverent Coffee Company.
Okay.
So I tell George this all the time. I wish I could be a snob about coffee, but I just don't know enough about coffee to be a snob. So this particular coffee company, though, my wife was shooting a movie in Yosemite, and
Okay.
we got married in Yosemite as well. So we love Yosemite. Which, have you ever been, by the way? Super tangent.
I've never been.
Oh.
It's beautiful though. I want to camp there.
Oh, make sure you reserve
You gotta
well
go.
in advance. You can camp outside of Yosemite easily, but in the park it's
Yeah.
hard to. But anyways, she was shooting a film up there, and I would go to this one coffee shop because I was like set husband. So I'd go to like this one coffee shop pretty often, and I loved their coffee. And I was like, yo, what coffee do you guys use? And they showed me. And it's a local coffee company up there from Oakhurst, California, called Reverent Coffee Company. And I love their coffee. I do it in a French press. So
Okay.
it just tastes good. I don't know how else, for me, it's not very acidic. You can really, it's like, when people go, oh yeah, this coffee has notes of cherry and vanilla, and sometimes you smell it and you go, it just smells like coffee to me. This one, I actually smell it and I go, ooh, that one smells a little chocolatey. And then I look on the front of the bag and I'm like, oh, it's chocolate. Let's go.
Wow.
Yeah. So anyways, that was a nice little one.
You've
sip
been
of
on that
coffee
Reverend
and
for a
I'm on.
while. You've been on it for a while.
Yeah, dog. I love it. It's really just one of my favorite
They
coffees.
have a lot of
that I drink.
flavors. What are your
They
favorite
do.
flavors? You would
I'm
say?
drinking the Kenya blend right now. Shout out Kenya. Let's go Africa.
You
What
guys
do
should
you-
get sponsored by them.
I have reached
Hey.
out to them, and
Okay.
You never know.
I love their brand enough to, even if we drive any sort of traffic to them, I'm more than happy to drive traffic to them because I just love their company. They're really cool.
It'd be
people as
organic
well.
too. You like their coffee. You literally like their coffee.
Exactly. This
Yeah.
was a nice little partnership that I didn't know was going to happen, just in terms of us always talking about it on the podcast, but it has.
Mm-hmm.
What are you drinking?
So, funny enough, I'm doing this like cleanse right now. So I'm day 6 on a caffeine cleanse. So I'm drinking mushroom coffee.
Is it mud
Ooh.
water?
No, it's called Everyday Dose. It's similar to mud water though.
Okay.
But yeah, it's fine.
Yeah.
It's all right.
Sounds
It's
really
a
good.
mushroom coffee, so it's okay.
Does it
but
taste
doesn't-
mushroomy? Does it taste mushroomy? Or
No, it doesn't taste mushroomy, but it tastes like watered down coffee.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I-
So it's fine.
I've had mud water, and that's exact. I was talking
wanna
to
try
a
that.
buddy of mine yesterday that literally I said the same thing. It's good. It gets the job done.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like the same as caffeine, but
No.
or just coffee. I mean, but it's cool. It's
Sounds
good
very
for you.
healthy though.
It is.
Yeah, it is.
That's
I'm into that type of stuff. I need to try that.
why are you doing this caffeine cleanse?
Yeah, so it's not just a caffeine cleanse. It's called the Flush. It's like a gut cleanse, a 14-day gut cleanse. And really just to cleanse me out of all the toxins and stuff. So it's lots of like juices and greens and things like that. But I try to do something like this every few months just because,
Smart.
gut probs and things. So
Yeah, I feel you are preaching
Yeah.
to the choir right here.
Yeah. So
That is something that. So George and I think this is a good segue into everything.
Yeah.
George and I, we've known each other since we were 4 years old. We're from Florida. We're from South Florida. We grew up in like a little area right outside Miami. So we went to school together since we were 4, pretty much all the way up until we were 18. And then we kind of went to college together as well. But he was a groomsman in my wedding. And this whole thing started just out of us wanting to talk to each other more. And he's a music producer and a DJ in Miami. And I'm an actor and a writer and a producer out here in LA. And, all of my people were on the East Coast. He and I, we still talk, right? But it wasn't like a sit down intentional conversation. So we just kind of came up with this idea. Let's just have a cup of coffee every week, put our phones down for an hour and just kick it. Nothing more, nothing less. That's what we're thinking about, how our lives are going, how this is happening, celebrations, successes, failures, everything, and in between. And, just so happens that a lot of people, we've asked people to come on and they've been in the artistic industry. So you don't necessarily have to be an artist to come on here, but it just so happens that people are kind of gravitating towards us that are in that field. So that's kind of how all this came along. And the reason why I say that was a good segue is because we both have gut issues. So we bonded over, like, I have diverticulitis and IBS and
okay. Me too. I have IBS as well.
Okay, yeah. So we heyo, IBS gang.
I feel like everybody has gut problems these days, though. Like, I just think it's the food in America is effing with us all.
Oh yeah. Oh my God. How was the food in Colombia, George? You were literally just in Colombia. How was the food?
It's really fresh, actually. Very, very fresh. I mean, the location I went to was on the coast, so it was a lot of seafood or seafood inspired. And it's fresh there too. But the thing is, if you go to those type of countries that it's very fresh food, it's hard to get acclimated with at first. Because think about it, we're eating very different foods here compared to there. But I'm used to it at this point. But I've seen people I go on vacation with and they're like, man, my stomach feels weird. And it's like, because it's cleansing itself. Yeah. Because it comes from the farm. I mean, the farm comes next door to like a restaurant. So
yeah.
I mean,
we're so used to the toxic stuff.
And all of our gut biomes are different. That's the other thing that I've learned in like my health journey and my food journey and my stomach. So like diverticulitis, everybody has diverticula as they get older. They develop these pockets inside their intestines. And diverticulitis is one of those pockets becomes inflamed. So technically speaking, I have diverticulosis. And then when it inflames, it becomes itis. Anyways, that pocket in your intestines can develop its own biome as well. So your gut could be one biome that is working itself. But then whenever food gets into that little pocket, it could affect that pocket differently because that pocket could develop its own biome. So our bodies are wild. I think that's
Inception right there. That was like Inception right there.
That's the whole point. Okay, this is a really circular. This is the craziest way that we've started any of our podcasts talking about guts. But it's important, man, because your gut is connected to everything. I know when I have a bad stomach day, it's hard for me to even think.
It is. It's your second brain.
Yeah. Actually, that's a question that I have because I've actually had. So we listened to your podcast. We took a look at all those resources you sent over. Thank you. Big fans. One thing that just came out to me is how articulate you are. You're so incredibly articulate in the way that you guide conversation. So good on you because that was awesome.
Thank you.
I have a question pertaining to gut stuff. Do you find or have you ever had any experiences where your gut's kind of messed up and you have to perform? And how do you perform if you have?
Yeah, I definitely have, especially struggling with IBS and things like that. I think really what I do is just distract myself, try not to think about it. Like I do the things I know to do, like, exercising, being careful with eating things that are easy on the stomach if I'm having a flare up, et cetera, et cetera. But once I do all of that stuff, eventually it comes to a point where I just have to distract myself and not think about it. I'm a big believer in like, yes, dealing with like pain and feelings and things that are bothering you, but I'm also not a big believer in like sitting in anything, and that includes physical things too. So just trying to distract myself and get outside of my body by doing things.
Do you guys ever realize that working out just slowly makes you want to eat healthier too? Like organic,
100%.
like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like in your own process.
Yeah, it's full circle. And then also, like, if you're gonna work out, you want to eat healthy because you want to see the results that you're working out. And we all know diet, it's like 80-20 or whatever, 70-30 is what they say. So, like, I'm not trying to kill myself in the gym to not see any results. Like, let's be real here. So,
that's 100.
That's not needed either. Diet is just as way more important to even see results.
Well, that's what I was going to say is if you're working out, look, in all honesty, I think anybody that works out, when you start to see results, you kind of get a boost of serotonin almost, right?
Absolutely.
When you see, oh, wow, I've been going to the gym. I didn't have, this little muscle right here. And I see just a small hint of a muscle, a glimmer of a muscle. You're like, wow, that's really nice. And you kind of want to keep that up. And then when you eat, it's almost like you are just stacking it on stacking it. Right?
Absolutely.
And you're right, though. I want to eat healthy when I'm working out because I'm like, I want to see what my body is capable of. That's the big thing for me with working out is like, I want to push my body to see what it is actually physically capable of. And it makes my stomach feel better. When I get those endorphins going, I always notice that. When I'm having a bad stomach day, I'm like, I need to go work out. And I'll go and work out and I'll get my body moving, the blood pumping. And once the blood is pumping through my body, everything seems to just start feeling better. My head, my stomach, everything starts to feel better. Yeah. So that it's key. It's key. So you said you've done these cleanses before, and we'll get to your whole story in a second. But I'm fascinated by these cleanses. Yeah. Do you eat any food while you're doing it? Is it just juices? Are you physically eating anything?
Yeah, so I am physically eating things. I will say too, I work with a holistic coach, so they give me like a very specific meal plan that I follow. They're called Nutrition Dynamic on Instagram if anybody's interested. They're really great with that stuff. But yeah, so it is food. It's a lot of just like plain stuff though, so I can have like 2.5 ounces of fish twice a day, but it has to be white fish, wild caught, like very specific things. A bone broth, but lots of like leafy greens. And then I have this smoothie 3 times a day that has a bunch of like liver cleansing things. They also have supplements that I'm taking at the moment as well. So yeah, it's like a Mediterranean diet type thing, but yeah, there is solid food.
God, liver's so important, man.
I was literally just thinking that. I'm like, there's so many things. Our body's a machine, and if one cog goes down, it affects the rest of the machine. So congratulations. Yeah. Good on you for taking care of your body.
Like you said, the gut's like the second brain. Like that area of the body and the liver is so important. It's essential to keep that healthy, I would say.
And while you're
after a while, there's no coming back from it.
Doing it while you're young, that's exactly it. Yeah. You got to do it while you're young. I mean, I remember seeing my grandpapa when he was on his way down, and we've talked about this before, George. This is kind of like my key to changing my mindset around everything. I saw it when he was on his way down, right before he passed, and he was having a hard time walking. He was out of shape. Yeah. He's a man of a different time, so he was more about the survival of things. So my family came from Cuba. They immigrated from Cuba, and so he had to survive. He had 5 daughters, all these types of things. But I just remember seeing him physically struggle and thinking, if there's anything that I can do to prevent that, right? The things that are out of your hands, there's certain things that happen in life that are out of your hands. But if whatever I can do to prevent that as much as possible, I'm going to do, because I don't want to end up being 85, not being able to walk, and not being mobile. Yeah. So when you're young, and that's the key, man, you have to, because it becomes habit. And the more you do it,
kind of like you can't live without it at one point. Like you feel uncomfortable when you don't do it. Right?
Yeah.
You got to get your body and mind too.
That's a good segue right there, that you can't live without it. So Sophie, you are a multi-hyphenate. Like you do so many things. So speaking of live without, tell us a little bit about your journey, where you're from, how you got to LA, why you chose to come to LA versus other places. right? Tell us about who you are in terms of what you do in the industry and things like that.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I'm primarily an actor, writer, and producer based in Los Angeles right now, and I'm 22. I moved here when I was 18. So I graduated high school in 2020, COVID times, super great. I was deciding, like, do I want to go to college or do I just want to move to LA to pursue acting? I've always known I wanted to be an actor. I was a theater kid growing up, had an agent in the Midwest when I was 15. I would occasionally fly to LA for things. So I
And
was
from
already
Michigan, right? I don't want to cut you off, but you're from Michigan, right?
We're in
Yes,
Michigan. We're in Michigan.
from Michigan, suburbs of Detroit.
Okay.
I like to say Detroit, but the suburbs of Detroit.
D-town, stand up. They had Detroit was having a big old revolution. They're coming. They're on the up again right now.
Hey,
Yes,
national
they
champs,
are.
national champs,
National champs
Yeah.
and the Lions, baby. Lions almost made it.
Mhm.
Okay, so sorry. So continue. You had an agent in the Midwest, and that would submit you and things like that.
Yeah. So I was kind of doing stuff as a teenager a little bit. Then when I was 18, I decided to go to college in California only because I got a really big scholarship. I graduated valedictorian in high school, which was kind of funny because I wanted to be an actor. I'm just very very perfectionist, and when I set my mind to something, if it's something in my control and I set my mind to it, I pretty much always get it done. If I'm super duper focused. So anyway, yeah, graduated valedictorian, got a really big scholarship to a school in Orange County. So in my mind, I was like, okay, I'm going to go to college in Orange County because I have this big scholarship and I can't afford to move to LA because I was 18, who has money to just move to LA at that age, you know? So I moved to college with the intention of living in the dorms and auditioning in Los Angeles. So I was basically only going to college to live in California because that was the only way I could afford to. So yeah, I did that, moved in 2020. It was super weird. I was living in the dorms, but everything was online. I would drive to LA for auditions, but again, I was 18 and I just moved here. So the type of stuff I was doing was really weird. I did a lot of sketch indie films, music videos. The first project I did in LA, I was like Bikini Girl #5. They paid me $50 for a 12-hour day. And then I was like, never again. So I was doing lots of funky things, meeting lots of oddball people and just doing weird projects and learning that first year. And then in 2021, they were kicking us out of the dorms. I was living in Orange County. So I was like, okay, go back to Michigan or move to LA. And I got a job working as a assistant producer for a small production company that barely paid the bills. But I was like, whatever, I'm going to just move to LA, take this job. And that's what I did. I technically got my associates in 1 year. So I have an associates in film, which nobody cares about in LA, but I have it. Yeah, moved here in 2021. In the past couple of years, it's just been, lots of auditions, lots of projects, commercials, indies, shorts, traveling. I've gotten into producing. I do a lot of social media management stuff as well. And yeah, just like embracing all of the crazy creative endeavors in LA. So that's kind of where I'm at now.
Wow, that was perfect. That was.
I'm excited for this episode because when
when
I read the answer she gave us in the email, I was like you said earlier, she's articulate, but also it's like you're just very passionate about it. And
Yeah.
I think this episode is going to show people to keep that fire alive. This is gonna,
18 moving out to
that's amazing.
California.
Mm-hmm.
I've talked about this before too. I don't think I would have survived if I moved out at 18. You obviously had a much more mature mindset than I did when I was 18. I was an idiot when I was 18.
Well, looking back on it now, it's one of those things. Do you guys ever go through stuff and then as an adult you look back on it and you're like, how did I do that? Like, I have no idea how I do that, but I think there's a naivety when you're that young. And like, I think about it too, because I quite literally packed up all of my stuff by myself, drove myself out here completely alone, like no parents, nothing. At 18 years old, like I was staying in motels on the way. I remember I ended up at some weird motel in like Iowa, 18 years old, just like staying there by myself. And I think back on that now and I'm like, I don't know how I did that, but I did.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah. There's almost a brashness in that naivete, like you were saying. And we've talked about this before too. George asked how it was moving out here from Florida, and I was like, I didn't even think about it. I literally didn't even think about it. Because I did the same thing. I packed up the car and drove out, and it wasn't even like, oh my God, I'm moving across the country. It was just like, oh yeah, I'm going to LA. I didn't conceptualize or fully wrap my head around the fact that I was literally moving across the country, and I think that it's a very brave. I always say, first off, I applaud anybody that moves out here to do this because it's brave. It's a very, I heard Ryan Gosling talking about there's a lot of Don Quixote figures, right? So there's a lot of these people that go on these great adventures. to go and figure something out, to chase the windmills. You're fighting the windmills that you think are these giants. So anyways, there's a big bravery in that. So how did your parents or how did your family feel about you moving out here as well? Do you have, how was that whole dynamic?
Yeah, so they always knew I was going to do it. I also had just a very kind of strange upbringing. My parents were divorced really young. My dad got remarried and had a bunch of kids, so I have a lot of like really young siblings. I have 8-year-old sister, 10-year-old brother, 12-year-old brother, 14-year-old brother. And so I didn't like
that's
see
like boom, 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 boom. Oh man.
It is. They're back to back. It is. And so I didn't kind of see them a lot just because they were very involved with like the younger kids. So I wasn't super involved with my dad. And then my mom, I have a younger brother who has a lot of behavioral problems. He started drinking when he was like 11 years old.
Oh, wow.
So he was also like a handful. He's been in and out of like facilities and things like that. So both of my parents were distracted is what I'm saying.
Gotcha.
So I've been very independent. I got my first job when I was 14 and just kind of always did my own thing. My first car when I was 16, things like that. So I don't think anybody was surprised. And I also told them like I'm moving out when I'm 18. That was why I did so well in high school, as well as I knew we also didn't have a lot of money. So I was like, my only way out of this is if I do really well in school and get a really big scholarship. Sorry, that was a long-winded answer, but I don't think they were surprised because I'd known it from the start.
She answered my next question. I was about to ask, like, you had this drive to leave at 18. There had to be some buildup before it. I mean, it makes sense now that you said you left at 14. And you just worked from 14 to 18, if I had to guess, right?
Yeah, basically just random jobs, ice cream shops, hot dog stands, any job I could get as a teenager, working at a prom dress store, just random things, but yeah.
You are a hustler. What? Oh my God. This is the good point to bring this up to. When is your birthday?
December 21st.
That's my birthday.
Hey.
Is it really?
And it's my wife's birthday. And my wife's
What?
birthday as well.
Yeah.
That's so trippy.
That's cool.
Yeah,
That's
dude.
cool.
That's trippy that you guys have the
That's
same
cool.
birthday.
Yes,
so cool.
that's a whole story. That's kind of
That's
how
how you know it's meant to be.
Yeah, it really was. I
Wow.
mean, we met in college, and every time I'd see her, I'd be like, "Oh, same birthday." But she was whatever. She was dating another guy.
That's funny.
Thank you. I appreciate. I want to say thank you to that other guy because you showed her what she didn't have. Heyo. So, so anyway, you just sound like I'm such a dummy. But it's the hustle in it is so apparent first and foremost, right? You just did everything that you possibly could do. And another thing, please give long-winded answers. Don't not give. This is the space to give long-winded answers.
This is the land of the tangents. We do them all the time, so we need other people to do them for us.
100%. This is the land of the tangents.
Okay,
so
cool.
you moved out when you were 18. Kudos to you. You went to, I'm guessing, UC Riverside in the OC?
No, it's actually a very small school. It's called Vanguard University in Costa Mesa, California. Mm-hmm.
Okay, right on. And then you decided to move up to LA. So did you dropped out of school?
I did technically drop out, but I got my associates.
That's right. You did say
but
that,
yeah, I left before I technically finished the program. So
okay, gotcha. And in film, you're right. So talk about that. Talk about what you said that nobody in LA really cares about a film degree, right? I was going to talk about that too because I got a bachelor in arts and theater studies with a minor in writing and rhetoric from University of Central Florida. Nobody cares. So what talk about like why you said that, and did you think that they were going to care when you were getting that degree before you moved up? Like how was that mindset?
Yeah, I don't think honestly, no, I didn't really think people were going to care. Like I said, the main reason I went to college was solely just to get to California, to be honest. What I did want to have a degree for is I think it's truly just the Midwesterner in me. I think if I really look at what Sophie thinks about, I don't give a shit about degrees, but I think thinking about just what I was up around, probably same for you guys, like everybody around me went to college growing up and like everybody was like talking about their kids, like, oh, they got into this school, da-da-da. So I was like, I wanted to have a degree just simply to have a degree. So I think that was important to me, but I don't really think I ever thought the industry cared about it just because I'd heard stories about people making it without a degree and things like that.
You know, it reminds me actually a lot about George, right? With something that you just said right there. George Michael, and you can speak to this, George, obviously it's your journey, but he went through a very similar phase where he went to go play soccer because he's he's athlete galore. He went to go play soccer in Pennsylvania. And what were you studying up there, George?
I was doing music in emphasis in music history.
And then you left and you went and you got your degree from Full Sail,
Yeah.
right, in Orlando. But it was that whole idea of the reason why I even thought of it was, like you said, the Midwesterner. And you pretty much, I got my degree from my parents. I'll be honest. I ended up getting my degree just because it was the next natural step in the process. Right. And I think that college teaches you a lot more outside of the classroom than in the classroom for me personally.
Absolutely.
Unless you're getting a very
Yeah.
specified degree, like you're becoming a surgeon or whatever. But
Right,
even then, you still have to learn outside. You have to learn what your social skills are. You have to learn how to balance social skills
Yeah.
with a deadline, how to work with people. You know, there's so many things, how to deal
Mhm.
with your home front. You know, how to deal with things that are coming at you that you weren't expecting. It's just all about becoming an adult for me personally. That's
Yeah.
what it was for me, was becoming
Yeah.
an adult. And George went through that journey of taking ownership over what he wanted to do, and he ended up doing it. Right? Like, George, how would you say that your mindset shifted from you going, I know we've talked about this before, but you going to Pennsylvania, like when you went there, why did you choose to go to Pennsylvania to play soccer and then to Full Sail? What was that mindset for you? I don't think I've ever asked you that.
Well, I first went. Can you hear me? I first went to Pennsylvania to play soccer was because I visited that school, and then I visited a school in Florida Gulf Coast. And I was like, yeah, it's cool that it's not at home and stuff, but I wanted to go on my own and just really figure out what I wanted to do on my own. And even my dad told me, he told me on the going away party, something I never, like the tone he said it into, I've never heard him say it like that. But that really shifted my mind when he was saying, you know, you're going to go up there and you're going to figure out what you want to do and who you want to be. Like, no one's going to tell you what to do. And I know you know that, but just to tell you that out loud. And he's like, just be yourself. So that was already a turning point before I went to Full Sail. In my mind, I knew I wanted to do music.
Mhm.
I was still thinking maybe I'll do nursing or something like that, like in the psychology realm. But then eventually, right away, I was like, no, I want to do music, and I'll find a way to work with this because it's just more than a hobby at this point in my life.
So it's like a natural progression for you to go up there, just like, oh, I'm going to go up there and figure it out. And this was an opportunity for me to go up there, so I might as well just take it. Is that kind of like how?
Yeah, exactly. Because that was scholarship, and then if I went anywhere else, I was gonna have to walk on playing soccer. I got a scholarship at that school, but not for nothing. I don't think I would have ever gone to Full Sail if I didn't go to a regular college first and figure out that I still wanted to do music. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because even then I was like hesitant to like go to another school after I left that school, and that's when like your parents talked to me about Full Sail and that you were in Orlando going to school there. So I think it was the shift before I even went to Full Sail was when my dad told me that, and then getting there and realizing like no one's telling you when to do laundry, no one's telling you what to clean, no one's telling you, like you have to decide what you want to do when it comes to day-to-day things, and there's no more like shadowing, there's not a bunch of teachers you have to answer to, really. Like it was a great experience to, like, you're still a child in a sense, you know, because you got room and board and all that, but learning that, just setting your feet on the ground at the first school, like, which was in Pennsylvania, was that.
Yeah.
And then Full Sail that was amazing. I always tell you, it felt like Harry Potter when he shows up to Hogwarts on the train. You're like, they have a place like this for me and other people. You know, that was cool. But even then, going to those classes, there were some people that just didn't want to pay attention, people sleeping, like in the first class I took. And I was like, I'm going to try to sit in the front every class because I want to try to get the most, squeeze the juice out of this one, because I got my college experience already being in Pennsylvania. I'm like, I want to be here. And that was a place in general that was like that too. There was no like sports there. There was no like events other than what we were studying. So
WWE. There's the WWE.
that was
right
really
there.
cool. Yeah, that was
They
really
do
cool.
that there. And
That was really cool.
I was gonna say something. I was like, you got to understand when we say we had to grow up and stuff like that, because we come from Hispanic households. So
Yeah.
we're very blessed, in all honesty, because we have great households. Like our parents were great parents, but that also involves a lot of classic Hispanic tropes, you know, where it's like, you know, you got to wash the dishes, you know, whatever. There's a lot of classic Hispanic tropes that go in that. So when you leave and you're flying the coop, so to speak, you're leaving the nest. It's something that is extremely liberating. It's shocking, and it's also incredibly educational. it really is just growing up in general in college. And yeah, man, kudos to both of you for kind of figuring out that lane. A lot of people don't figure out that lane. They just continue drifting throughout life. So then I guess my next question is, when you came to LA, did you have any expectations first and foremost? And if you had any expectations, what were they?
Honestly,
had you visited before you decided to move
yes.
out? Okay.
Nice.
Yeah, so I did one of those, if you guys have heard of them, one of those like scam things where it's like, oh, you pay $3,000 and we'll make you a star. One of those like
yeah.
child things.
Is it
So I
like
did one
a
of
talent
those.
showcase thing?
Exactly, yes.
Okay.
So I did one of those when I was 17, like saved up a bunch of money to do it. Came out here.
I have so many thoughts on those.
Yeah. So I'd been to LA. That was the good thing. It showed me LA. I came here for the first time, and it really made me realize, like, okay, I want to do this. So I don't have any regrets in that sense. But yeah, I'd been to LA one time before. And when it comes to expectations, I really do think, just like everybody else, I wouldn't have admitted this, but I really do think I expected to be like the one who gets the big audition and books it and becomes a star at 18, like after moving here. I do think that was a subliminal expectation. But other than that, I don't really think I did have expectations, just because I was flying so much by the seat of my pants. And honestly, I was kind of in survival mode in this period of my life as well, just because I was so young doing this adulting thing on my own, figuring it out, that I didn't have a lot of time to like really think about what I was doing. I was more so just acting, if that makes sense, like going through the motions and doing the thing as opposed to processing what I was doing. It's almost hard for me to remember some of that period of my life because I was in such a survival mode. As weird as that sounds, but yeah.
Yeah, because it's okay. So it's almost, you forget to stop and smell the roses, right? I've been in LA for 8 years now, so I've been here. I'm on my 8th year,
Okay.
and the hustle is so real. I always say LA is like the classic ducks in a pond. Everything seems cool and calm and chill on the surface, but underneath, those legs are kicking. Everybody's legs are fucking kicking. Everybody's like, what the fuck is God? You know?
Yeah.
It seems super chill until it's not.
Yeah.
And so, in that,
I realized that visiting you.
Yeah.
So I would visit Isaac. If I would go for at least a week sometimes, right? So
yeah.
And sometimes I would stay. Most of the time, I would stay with him. So seeing him getting in the morning, like getting ready, and then going to do that, and then we would all meet up later for like dinner or happy hour, and everyone's having a great time. But you like the next day, everyone's kicking again. Like it's
the hustle.
You walk outside
so
and you want to
real.
do stuff there. That's what I like about like LA and New York. You go outside and you want to get stuff
The
done.
difference in LA and New York is that LA is a car city, and New York, you go outside and you walk. You're
walk
in
or
it
take the train.
immediately. Right. But LA has that. It's a very similar vibe as well. And that's something that I've had to learn, is how to balance the stop and smell the roses. Because I'm telling you right now, after being here for 8 years, those years go by fast. And some of them are like in a flash, they're in a fog, they're in a haze, they're in a mist, whatever you want to call it. Yeah. So the balance of really enjoying each day to really remember it is, for me, it was an art that it was a muscle that I had to exercise, because there have been plenty of months that have just gone by where I'm like, it's already the end of the year. What the hell happened? I mean, what happened this year? I don't even know what happened, because you're so focused on, I got to go to class, I'm auditioning, I'm self-submitting, I'm setting up this podcast, I'm doing that, blah, blah. You're trying to juggle all these balls, which is like the life of an artist. It really is, having to juggle, especially in the nowadays. If you want to do this, you kind of have to be more than a one-trick pony. You can't just be a one-trick pony. But you have to also have that expectation of, I'm going to get that audition. If you don't move out here thinking that, even subliminally, if you're just like, yeah, just move out there and something happens, whatever. I have seen so many actors, and I've talked to so many actors that aren't putting in any work, so to speak, and that just expect that. So that's, I think, the next evolution of that thought process. So my next question is, from that moment that you came, how long have you been out here? 4 years, you said?
Almost 3 years now.
Almost 3 years. Okay, so you definitely have enough time. What has surprised you about the industry, being in it, chasing it, the life as an artist, LA? What has surprised you about any and everything in that umbrella?
I think just how much of the industry there is. Like, there really is so much film work and so much creativity in Los Angeles. And I just didn't ever think about all the little random creative endeavors. Like, for example, I um, modeled for the cover of like a show on HBO. I'm literally just the face of the show. I'm not even in the show,
That's
but
fire.
like my face is on the cover of it. And I went through like a whole audition process and a whole shoot. It's called Bama Rush. I'm sure you guys heard of it. I'm the face of Bama Rush, but I'm not in the show on HBO. And like another thing I did was my hands are like in a scene in the Hulu show with Elle Fanning. Like they used my hands for like Elle Fanning's hands. And like I never thought about the weird little niche parts of the industry like that, those like smaller gigs, which is funny because the person that was producing the Elle Fanning hand shoot, I later ended up doing a feature film with him last year that was on like Lifetime and things like that. So it's very interesting to me how like there's so much random little creative gigs and then one thing leads to another out here as well in the midst of that, if that makes sense. Yeah.
Work begets work.
That's so cool that
Exactly.
you're able to do stuff like that though, because like
Yeah,
you're stamping
exactly.
a moment or history and time in a medium of entertainment or arts, like the cover of something. You're not even on it. Like I think that's really cool. Stuff like that.
It is, and like that type of stuff is so fun to me. I didn't realize moving here how much I would enjoy. I thought it was going to be a series regular right off the bat, and I'm not yet, but I enjoy my life still. I enjoy the everyday. I enjoy those random little gigs. I meet people. I have time to talk to people. I enjoy the hustle. I like auditioning. I like random gigs every day. I like doing freelance work. Like I don't hate that and I trust that whatever comes acting wise will come when it's meant to be because I'm doing all the things that I know to do and that's all I can do. I have the reel in order now. I have my reps. I audition, I take classes, and then I also do these gigs and that's everything I can control, so I have to let the rest go. Yeah.
Talk about your relationship with learning what you can control and what you can't control. How did you develop that perspective on it in this industry?
Yeah, I think honestly, I think you're forced to. If you don't develop that perspective, you're not going to last in this industry. So yeah, because when I focus on the things that I can't control, like, oh, I didn't book that, da da da, you just get so deep in a hole. And yeah, again, like I was saying earlier, I don't like to dwell on my feelings. I like to just kind of be like, okay, this is what I feel, on to the next thing, which some people will say is healthy, some will say unhealthy. I think there's a beauty in feeling things, but not for too long. I'm not a big believer in sitting and letting things manifest. Like you have to deal with it. This is my thing, on to the next. I didn't book that. This kind of sucks. Okay, on to the next. I can't control that. And if I dwell on it, nothing's going to happen. You're just wasting time.
I think you allow yourself to feel it, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but for what I'm hearing, it's like you allow yourself to feel it. You just don't allow yourself to get stuck in that backwards treadmill, in
Exactly.
the consistent feeling of it, right? So it's like, yes,
100%.
I'm feeling it. I felt it all the way, and now it's time to move on.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yep.
I get that. That
Yeah.
that that
I mean, you have a deep
understanding.
passion as well for what you're doing so much that not getting a gig is gonna make or break you. It's gonna hurt, but it's not gonna make or break you.
That's very true too. I also just have such an abundance mindset. I think a lot of actors
Mm.
feel like it's so competitive and like da da da. I don't think that at all. Like what is meant for me will find me and that's that. Like nobody can take away a role that's mine. Nobody can take away a role that is this person. Nobody has your vibe, your energy, your voice, your essence. And so if you book something it's meant for you and if you don't it's not. And yeah, on to the next. There's more.
Look, at tapati, nadie te lo quita. That's what my grandmother used to say. What's meant for you, nobody will take it from you.
Mhm.
That's 100%. And a rising tide floats all ships. That's a good mindset to have out here. I definitely have come across people that have the opposite of that, which is when they see somebody else succeed, they think it's infringing upon their possibility of succeeding. And
Mhm.
and so that brings me to the next question. What's your relationship like with rejection in the industry and that whole, because it is a big I like to say when you're doing an audition, sometimes it feels like you're shooting darts in a dark room and you're just hoping that the dart hits the board, right? So especially with
Yeah.
self tapes now, we're not really in the room as much as we were before. So what's your relationship like with the rejection aspect of the industry?
Yeah, I mean, again, it sucks. There are times that I get so close to such cool things, and does kind of suck. I'm not gonna lie. But I think in terms of my relationship with rejection and auditioning, I love a no. I like to get an email like, you didn't book this, we decided to go with somebody else. I love that. The thing that gets me is the not hearing anything.
Yes, the
That
silence.
is what
the
I really hate.
silence. The silence.
Exactly. And then sometimes too, like silence is fine because 2 months later they'll reach out about the same thing. And I'm like, so it's like kind of a good thing, kind of a bad thing. You never know. I don't know about you two, but I wonder sometimes. I know casting directors are always like, we watch all the tapes. I'm like, see, but do you? You got 200 blonde chicks that auditioned for this. And if you saw the 7th one and you really liked her and you booked her, don't you lie to me and tell me you watched 193 other ones. I don't know.
Okay, so this is what I will say. We've been very lucky, my wife and I, and we've talked to some casting directors, not on anything, like off the record.
Yeah.
And we just ask them, what is the casting process like? And they'll put out, a breakdown on Actors Access, and a breakdown, George, we talked about this before. It's pretty much like, hey, this is the character name, this is how old they are, this is what they are. And so a bunch of people submit for it. Let's say they get 500 submissions for one role. They will, they go through the submissions and they request 200 people. Of those 200 people, 100 of them confirm for the audition. Of those 100 that confirm, and they always say like maybe 30 send in a tape. They go, you have no idea how crazy it is, the amount of people that we request that either just don't confirm or decline the audition, or confirm and don't send an audition. So I 100% I'm with you on the silence of the industry. And, I had a mentor a while ago just say, and this is the hardest thing to do, when you're done with it, forget about it. You got to forget about it, because if you sit in it and you dwell in it, like we were talking about, that's when, an idle mind is a devil's workshop. That is when those little thoughts start to just snowball, and like, oh, well, they said that the deadline was February 24th and it's only February 11th. So I still have 13 days to, and then you start to think all that stuff, and it's okay.
Yeah.
It's human nature. But at the same time, it's what are you doing today? Are you just going to sit there and think about that today? Like, is that what we're doing? Maybe. But a lot of it has to be what's going to be the most productive thing. That's the thing that I always tell myself, because I definitely go through my ups and downs. And when I'm in my downs, I always try to maintain productive habits as best as I can, more than anything. Because
on the outside looking in, though, I really realized that we talked about it in a couple episodes before, but now more in detail, I'm thinking we all have jobs, but your jobs are to just keep acquiring more projects and jobs. You know what I'm saying? So it is like, it's the highest of the highs and the lowest of the lows. Like, you guys are like UFC fighters. Like, they're the highest of the highs when they win a fight, and the lowest of the lows when they lose one, where you guys are dealing with that weekly. Because, how many auditions you guys do on average a week or a month? At least like 2, right? Or more? Like,
I self-submit like a mofo, so I probably do 10 to 20 a week.
Oh,
now,
wow.
Granted, they're not all big. Some of them are small, like commercials and things like that. But yeah, 10 to 20 a week.
Are you union or are you non-union?
I'm SAG eligible, so I go up for both. That is part of it as well. Yeah, that's a good point.
Do you think it helps you doing those many auditions, that it just keeps you busy as well? Because I know you were mentioning that in the answers on the email, which I wanted to touch on. Because you find beauty in staying busy, I would say.
100%,
Right.
yeah. Because like what Isaac was talking about, if you just sit here as an actor and you dwell on those things, like, no, staying so busy and moving on to the next thing helps to keep me going, because I'm not able to sit on the rejection and dwell on it. So, and I'm also, again, just such a big believer that one thing leads to another. So it's rare for me to turn down an audition unless it's like, I don't do like stuff that like doesn't pay. I just don't do that anymore. Or if there's like nudity or like something I don't agree with. But other than that, I'm pretty like free for all when it comes to auditions. I will do even unpaying stuff as long as I like the script, that kind of thing. So that's also part of the reason why I audition so much.
When you were talking, when you were talking about abundance, I gave her kind of like a title. She's a hustler with optimism. Because a lot of people can have hustle, but it's based off of pessimism, right? Like, they're scared about something's going to go wrong, where you're like, there's opportunities amazing. If it doesn't work out, there's an abundance of opportunities. So it's like a never die attitude, but with optimism, I would say. It's hard to be a hustler with optimism. You know what I'm saying? Because a lot of people do it out of fear. They hustle out of fear. Where you're more so, I do it for joy and to find things I want to do. and move on to the next one if this one doesn't work.
Yeah.
That's a good mindset
point.
to have.
That's a good point.
You're leading with joy, not fear.
Abundance,
Mhm.
baby. That's what
Abundance.
that abundance is. That's true. You talked about something. So you turned down things that you wouldn't do. We spoke with another actress that came on here, and we talked to her about what are some non-starters. So what are like non-starters for you in a project that you will decline a project because of this? You know, I know I have a few as well. So speak about that for you.
Yeah, number one, nudity for sure. I don't do anything of that sort. Number two, I'm just not a big fan of anything over sexual. I just don't think that's needed. And I don't know if it's like my type because I'm blonde or what, but I do seem to get stuff thrown my way a lot that is like that. And I'm just like, no. So that's another thing I won't do. I'm also not a big fan of like, I don't even know how to say crappy writing. Like if I really read it and I'm like, okay, there is no way I can portray this authentically. And like you're laughing because you probably know. Sometimes I get sent stuff and I'm like, I would literally want to die if these words came out of my mouth. I cannot do this realistically. So and I'll turn that down as well. Yeah, those are kind of my big ones.
Yeah,
This for everyone listening. If you don't do anything you're not comfortable doing with, there's plenty of work out there. Abundance.
Yeah.
Like that's what I was trying to get at too, of you mentioning that.
Mm-hmm.
Don't do anything you don't want to do, and then you look back and you're like, I shouldn't have done that. You know?
Yeah. And I will say too, early on in my career, because I moved here so young, I did do some real sketch things and things to this day that I would absolutely not do that I did back then. Exactly. So this comes from a place of learning, because I have had some funky experiences. So yeah.
And that's one thing that when I was saying if I moved out at 18, I don't know if I would have made it, just because I didn't have certain, I don't want to say guidelines, but that's the word that's coming to my head right now, about who I was as a person, about the things that I was comfortable portraying, about things that I'm not. You know, I think that art is a reflection of life, and it's very much a reflective sort of analysis of certain things that are going on. And it's for audience members to judge it one way or another, right? Because when it's out, it's no longer yours, it's the audience members, whatever. But the point that I'm getting at is there's a lot of people that move out when they're young and they do things like that because they don't know any better, because they haven't had time to develop who they are, because they haven't had time to develop the things they believe in and the things they don't believe in.
You're very impressionable at that age.
Oh my God, dude.
Yeah.
Oh my God. That's people, you move out here, and I always say that, you know, a lot of people get lost in the sauce because catching this dream in a lot of ways is like holding sand in your hand, right? You pick up the sand, but the little grains of sand are falling through your fingers. And there's a lot of people that are not the leaders that you should follow. And they say, hey, I know what I'm doing. Come and follow me, to impressionable young people. And those impressionable young people go and follow those people when you're like grabbing at the wrong substance. Then it's not something that you're not building your home on hard, fertile ground. You're building your home on shaky sand. And then
100%.
that home is able to, you start to move. And those are the people that don't end up lasting out here for various reasons. There's other people that leave that first off, I always say, if you leave and you find something else that makes you happy in your life and you do it, God bless you, do it. You deserve to. Go and do what you want to do to be happy in your life. That's the most fruitful for your life. 100%. I'm with that. And if you stick out here and you stay out here, good on you as well, right? Because you're chasing and you're building and you're trying to do this thing. And I mean, I was talking to Sky's my wife. I was talking to her recently about just like I did this scene in class because I've gone through periods of not working for a very long time and still auditioning but getting nothing. And then I'll do a scene in a class and I'm like, and we talk, and I come home and I talk about it. I'm like, fuck, dude, I can't not do this. This is just like, I still it just lights something inside of me, and I'm like, even throughout all that other BS that's all surrounding everything. And you find that one little spark. You know, I had somebody tell me, which this will lead me into the next thought that I was just thinking. I had somebody tell me, you got to hold on to those little talismans, right? Of whatever it is throughout your time here that keep you going on to the next day. You know, I've been very fortunate to have really great experiences and be on projects. And I had this one guy just pretty much just like tell me the most amazing thing that I always go back to, which always keeps me going. You know, he's like, dude, you're forget about being talented and being on time, being prepared. You got that, but you're a good person. And when you're a good person, that'll take you a lot further than not being a good person. You'll see. And so I hold on to all these things, and he's like a seasoned, huge actor. I hold on to all of those things from people that tell me that on the days that I'm down. And this podcast helps with that as well. So I guess my question to you is, on the days that you might feel those things, or what are the things that keep you going? What are the motivations for you? Maybe not even on the down days, on the up days when you succeed. What are some of the things that those little talismans inside of you that keep you propelling forward?
Yeah, I think it's quite similar to what you said, Isaac. I never feel more alive than when I'm acting and when I'm really deep and really present in a scene. Like, I'm a big believer that, like, as human beings, certain things, like, set our soul on fire, and we were created for certain things. And for me, that's acting. The way I feel when I'm truly present in a character and truly in it in a scene, whether it's in class or on set, there's nothing that makes me feel more free. And so that's what I come back to. And I've known that since I was a kid. I did my first theater thing when I was 10 years old. And from like that point forward, just getting outside of myself, playing another character, getting to embrace somebody else's emotions, there's just something so beautiful in that. So I just have to come back to the craft, essentially what it is, and remind myself, I don't do this for the clout. I don't do this for the bookings. I don't do this for anything. I do this for my soul because it's what feeds me and makes me feel alive.
I wanted to say how fun is that process, guys, for both of you?
You broke
Having
up a
to
little
just
bit. I don't know if you're
break
still there,
yourself
but we can't hear
down
you.
and then
If you're
just
talking,
have to
you have a very nice
recreate
look on your
another
face.
person for another
It's
act.
the most
You know?
flattering look we've
perfect.
ever seen. He's literally like, he was talking about how fun. But I did have a question because you said something that I wholeheartedly believe, as he'll bounce back in. I'm sure he's texting me right now.
Okay.
But you said it's about the craft.
Yeah.
So many people move out here not understanding that you're an actor. You're not a, like whatever social media or
influencer.
Yeah, whatever else, fill in the blank there. So when it pertains to the craft, what's your entrance into the craft? What do you subscribe to? What do you think? I love talking like acting talk and like technique and stuff like that. Do you have a specific technique that you do? What do you do in terms of that? Here, he's coming back in right now.
Yeah, so I think from ages of 15 to 18, I did a really intensive Meisner program in Detroit. It was like 3 days a week, which I feel so blessed that I got to do that sort of thing at that age, because it was like a college level acting class, but I was still in high school. So Meisner is really my foundation, I would say.
Okay.
But since coming out here, I've literally tested like so many acting studios since being in LA, and I think I pull little bits from all of them. So I'm trained in, Uta Hagen, Stanislavski. All of it. And I love that. I nerd out for acting stuff as well. But I think when it comes to genuinely like, if I get a script and I'm auditioning or I'm prepping for a role, I don't have a specific process. It really just depends on the character, depends on the role, and depends on the project, because some characters are closer to me and I can use a little bit more of myself. If the character's further from me, then I'll have to do more like character backstory and more breaking down and things like that. But my big things are, I don't even like to plan. I know some actors like to add in like emotion and stuff to their script. I don't really like to do that. I like to memorize it, have it so in my body, and then know that character so well from my backstory, and then say F it when I get to set and kind of play. If I can. Of course, it depends on the project. If I'm doing a soap or whatever, then like that's different. But that's my favorite way to do it, is just have it in my body and then say F it.
So are you like a journaler? Are you a big writer in like a journal beforehand?
Yes, in terms of character backstory, yeah, I do like to journal as my character and like write as character and things like that. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so some books that have changed my life.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever heard of The Artist Way? I don't know if you've ever heard of that, by Julia Cameron.
I have. Yeah, I've done it.
Okay,
I've dropped out of doing it.
Me too. That's what I was gonna say. I never make it past like week 5 or 6.
Same.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And but I still do the morning pages. That is something that. Hey,
he's back.
He's back.
The power went out here.
Really?
Oh.
Yeah, it got really windy for a little bit. I mean, it's still a little windy, but it's not bad. It's not bad. I
You
guess.
literally bounced out at the perfect, like your face was like this. It was amazing. It was great. You looked so flattering. So we're talking about the craft now that you're back. We're talking
Okay.
about like acting and just technical and like techniques. I love talking about techniques. Um,
Yeah.
Artist Way. I still subscribe to the morning pages. I still journal pretty much every morning. I try to, at least. I shouldn't say I do,
Yeah.
but I have. I've been doing it since I was 18. So I have like 14 journals completely filled up front to back.
Mm-hmm.
And I've gone through my journey with it, all blah, 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 blah. But that's something that's really helped me in terms of creativity, because just getting something out in the morning from you physically onto a piece of paper sort of connects you with that inner creative soul. That book
Yeah.
changed my life. Anam Cara is another one. It's a Celtic spirituality book.
Okay.
And it doesn't necessarily deal so much with this is what you should believe, this, that, and the other. It's very the reason that's why I liked it was because it was just seeing certain things from different perspectives, right? And that's something else that like connected me artistically, which was crazy. And then I read first off, Uta Hagen's book blows my mind every time. I kind of read that book almost every year. I try to.
What is that about?
She was an acting teacher for the Actor Studio in New York, which is like when Stanislavski started modern. He's basically like the grandfather, the father of modern acting, right?
Yeah.
Konstantin Stanislavski from Russia. He developed the method acting. You hear about that all the time. Like what Daniel Day-Lewis does, where he stays in character on set the whole time, all this stuff. There's a lot of conversations surrounding that. But then when it came to America, a lot of these people studied under him, and it came to America. These people formed the Actor Studio in New York. And it was like Sanford Meisner, Uta Hagen, Stella Adler, and what's the other guy I'm forgetting? There's another guy in there that I'm forgetting. But whatever. It's all these people started it, and they kind of branched out from there. They branched out and made the modern technique, I guess, more modern, right? And she was one of those people, and she wrote this book called Respect for Acting. And that in that book, it's just like a bunch of exercises. It's pretty much her explaining her technique as a teacher, because she never wanted to be a teacher. That's something else that always blew my mind. She was like, I don't want to be a teacher. She was always an actor. She literally debuted on Broadway at like 18. I think she was Anna and the Seagull. Like she was huge on Broadway. And she said that she knew, her talking about what you were talking about, she knew how to do something in order to get a response from the audience. So she knew that if she did this on this line, she knew people were going to cry. If she did this, people were going to laugh. So it became very robotic, the way that she was acting. And then she was like, this doesn't even feel real to me anymore. And then she met her then husband. I don't know if they ended up staying married the whole time, but she met her then husband. That kind of changed her whole approach to acting, which was very much on, don't force crying on this line. If you can't cry, then don't cry. Yeah. It's if you do it, it's false. It was all about truthful acting under the given circumstances, right? And that's kind of this. I took a class in Stella Adler, which is all about imagination under the given circumstances. So, anyways, this book details that, and a lot of it is she has her questions. She has these specific questions that you do beforehand based on the text that help you to develop the character, which I love doing and I subscribe to. My technique has changed over the time. But anyways, that was a long-winded answer to explain who Uta Hagen is and what her sort of technique was. But we're just kind of talking about that whole craft. So you like Meisner? That's really cool. Meisner is Lee Strasberg. That's the other guy I was forgetting. I knew I was forgetting.
Yes. Yep.
But Meisner's cool. So then how has your technique changed since coming out here to LA and the classes that you've taken? How have things kind of like developed for you?
Yeah, I think I resonate with Uta Hagen a little bit in the sense that, like, because I was a theater kid growing up, there was like a certain way of doing things, and just theater acting is so different than film acting. So that was something that I kind of had to break with my Meisner technique. So I think it changed in that sense. I think the main thing that changed after moving to LA and taking classes here is really learning that auditioning is a little bit different from the craft of acting. And so I can't always audition in the way that I necessarily want to, if that makes sense. There's certain elements of your audition, and I think at first I wanted to just do things Sophie's way and not know like the office I was going in for, the vibe of the script and things like that. So I still use my technique of trying to be present, but I use my technique in like sort of the constraints of a box, I guess, if that makes sense.
Yeah. In the context of like if you're going out for something that's a little more broad, right? So it's something that's a little bigger, or if this office has like a Modern Family is not the same as if you're going in for Ozark type of thing.
Absolutely, yeah.
That makes sense. Why do you think that theater acting is different from film acting? I like talking about this too.
Yeah, I think I mean, the main thing is just like the camera picks up everything, so you have to be so real. And with theater acting, as cheesy as it is, you can be a little bit bigger. I'm not a believer in like, doing too much for theater acting, but you can be a bit bigger because the audience is far away and things like that. I also think with theater, you have to be very aware of your physicality. That's a big thing that's super different. With film acting too, it's just so close and there's like less space to do things. So it's like you almost have to learn how to use your body in a different way with like still using it to where it's natural, but not using it too much. So yeah, I think it's good to know how to do both though. And there are definitely elements that are both in theater and both in film.
I took this masterclass with Jason Alexander, who he was on Seinfeld. He was George Costanza on Seinfeld. He's been in a bunch of stuff, but something that I think I heard, he broke it down to me in the way that was the most intelligible to me. I think we talked about this before too, George, but he says the difference between theater acting and film acting is, for instance, if my character reels their head back in like astonishment because of what you say or whatever it is, right? If I'm taking it in, it's like, whoa, that's crazy that you said that. If it's in a 1,000-seat theater, I'm gonna reel my head back like this. I'm gonna go,
Yeah.
right. If it's in like a 99-seat theater or a black box, you go like this. Not the big thing like that. And then if it's in film and you get that, it's like this. It's the different modulations of the way that you're doing it. I think that the breadth of it remains the same.
Yeah.
It's in the way that you modulate it is
like
where
how more animated you are.
Well, you have to reach the back, and you have to be. This is something else that he said. I should be able to put my TV on mute and still understand what's happening. If I can't understand what's happening with when the TV on mute, then you're emoting. You're an emotioner. You're not an actor.
Did that come natural to both of you? I mean, probably because you guys did study film. It's probably harder for people that didn't study film, but the idea or the know-how of that there's people in a room, so it's theater, and then there's just a camera, so it's just a camera. You know what I'm saying? Like, so
there's still people in that room, even with the camera.
That too.
A lot of people.
Yeah, that's true too. But you know what I'm saying though? Like, is it easy to gauge that energy of I'm in a theater production and there's just people watching it here with me and it's a moment in time? Or that take time to learn?
Yeah. I don't know that it takes time to learn. What I do miss about that is just like the energy of feeling those people that are watching it and they're there with you. That's something I very much miss about theater, is like, they're engaged with you. Sometimes I even notice when I'm on set for like a film set, if I do something that's like funny or whatever, I do some, just kind of check out crew, kind of see what their reaction is. And sometimes I feel like they, in particular, even if they are watching, they try not to have a reaction. So even though there are plenty of people on the film set, a lot of the time they're not giving you anything to work off of. So that's
that little smirk's gotta mean everything though sometimes when you see
exactly, for sure. I know. Yeah, that's true. Check the audio guy out, he's got a little smirk on. I'm like, nailed it.
Yeah, that's just the best. When you can make like a grip laugh, the fucking hardcore dude that like rides Harleys and is smoking Marlboro Reds every 5 seconds, and then you see him give a chuckle, you're like, oh, that was pretty funny, because you're getting somebody that you never expected to. I agree with what you're saying. It's the energy of theater is, for me, unlike anything else. If you're on stage and you're doing it, that audience is a character in what you're doing, because you feel it. You feel it. It is again. I had
cinema and theater just feel different in like their own ways, but theater's just the build up to walk in. It gets the lights go down, the
Yeah.
curtain opens, and then someone's just starting to talk, and it's like they
you
bring
also
you to a
don't
world.
know when you're filming something and you're an actor. You don't know if it's going to work.
Yeah,
In theater, it's immediate. You know,
Yeah.
and again, you don't know if it's going to work every night because it's different people coming in, but you know immediately if it works or not with those people.
Yeah.
You know,
Isaac and I saw Phantom of the Opera our senior year, and that was very eye-opening to theater. I had been to theater stuff before that, and it was all really good, but that was like...
Well, we saw it on Broadway, and that's different than seeing the touring production.
It was good, though. I liked it.
It was great. I mean, there's a reason that show is so... The only show I don't understand why it's run so long is Cats. I went to go see Cats on Broadway, and I was like,
weird.
What the fuck? Pardon the French, but what the fuck? And we went, and I know that so many people love that show.
Yeah.
And I didn't know anything about it when I was a kid. I don't know if you remember this, George Michael. When I was a kid, I remember when I was watching cartoons or whatever, they'd always show like these Broadway on the commercials. They would show like these Broadway highlights, and you could buy the VHSs of those Broadway highlights. And one of them was Memories, like the classic original Broadway production of the woman, the super famous one singing. And so I went to Cats with my wife because she had a professor who was on Broadway in the revival. He was playing Thessalonian, whatever the cat is that decides if you go to cat heaven or not. I forget what his name is. Anyways, we're there. Bro, I'll never forget him. I'm hype, right? And it starts off, the first song is like, Jellicle Cats, oh, Jellicle. And they're all dancing and they're doing cool stuff. And one of them's like, yeah, I'm the ballerina cat. And you're like, oh, cool. And then the next person comes down, they're like, I'm the rocker cat. And you're like, oh, right on. And then there's like twins that come on, they're like, we're the twins. And you're like, oh, cool. And then it keeps going for like 10 minutes. And you're like, all right, cool. And then like 10 more minutes. So we're 20 minutes in. It's the same fucking song. And it's just cats being introduced for 45 minutes. And I'm like, what is going on? There's nothing happening. And then I'm literally sitting next to people, and people are weeping, bro. Like, I mean,
wow.
They're in a puddle. And I'm sitting there with Sky, and I literally look at her and go, am I like a sociopath? I don't understand what's happening. Why are people crying so hard? I don't get it. And then there's
people around the world that go to watch that too. You got to think about it. Like, we're here and we know about it, but there's people that are probably like all over the world come and watch that, and they're like, this was my dream to see Cats live.
But objectively speaking, that show has little to no point. That show is like,
it's a dream.
I don't get it. Yeah, I guess.
Did you watch the movie?
No.
Okay.
I didn't. Did you?
It did really bad.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. Was it good?
It was okay. It sounds similar to the Broadway musical. There's like no story to follow. So it's
all about one cat's journey from being sort of like the scuzzy cat on the side to becoming the chosen. There's always one cat that's chosen to go to heaven, and she ends up getting chosen. So it's like beautiful in that sense, but it's just the story itself doesn't even go through that. It's like that is the main storyline, but they do 1,000 other songs that don't have anything to do with that storyline.
Hard to follow.
Like, why are we watching all this other stuff? Isn't that the most important part? Anyways, listen, I always say if you make something amazing, everybody's a critic. So incredible. Good for you. And if it's good and you make it, double good for you, because that's awesome. You know, that leads me to actually to another question. What are your thoughts on the current state of streaming versus cinema? Like, what are your thoughts on just both movies in today's day and age versus like TV in today's day and age?
Yeah, I think it's both like a blessing and a curse, I think. It's a blessing because obviously there's a lot more work for us actors, but I do miss the just like traditional kind of... I feel like there used to be such a respect to like movies and like movies at the theater and stuff like that, and I don't think it's as like special as it was, even 10-20 years ago. It was such a bigger thing, but with streaming we just have everything at our fingertips, and I think it makes it a little bit less special in that sense. But as an actor, I do like it because obviously there's a lot more opportunity for us and a lot more opportunity to tell stories as well and create cool movies and get people to watch them. So yeah,
I agree. I think that I mean, you and I have talked about this too, George, that people don't go to the movies anymore because they can just watch something at home. You know,
Yeah.
even like I think about my parents, and they still go to the movies, but it's very rare that they'll go to the movies because they have a really nice TV, and they're just like, well, we could just rent it at home and just watch it
Of course.
at
Yeah.
home, you know, in the comfort of our own home. And the one thing that I like going to theaters, you can't pause. You have to sit and watch the whole thing, because when you pause, you stop the momentum. Of a movie.
It's true.
Like,
I agree.
the momentum of the story and the pacing of it and the way that it's going, you know, the editing and how it makes you feel. That's the way. That's the reason why I love going to the theaters. Like I went to go see the Iron Claw in the Lemley, and I was the only person in the theater watching the Iron Claw.
What?
And I was weeping at the end of it, and I was like, oh God, I love movies. It's
Bro, we went to go see Avatar. That movie was a journey. It was a long movie.
It is a long movie.
Like, yeah, some movies you just have to stick it out though, and then you get rewarded in the end, or some maybe 5 minutes later after you're just like, damn, it's still going. But
yeah,
there's nothing like movies. I mean, I played soccer and there's no timeout, so it's like just let it build, let it build. Like there's a beauty in that, you know. And even with when you do theater, it's like you don't want to leave for that either. You can't press pause on that either. So it's
right.
Do you guys have a favorite type of play? That you guys like, you're probably your most favorite experience of like witnessing a play?
I did a show, and I also have seen it, called The Vagina Monologues.
Oh,
I've heard about
Yeah,
that. I've heard about that.
Okay, yeah, it's like a very just very progressive, all female cast type show, and that was just really powerful. I did that when I was 18 at a theater in Toledo, Ohio, actually, and it was just a really transformative experience. It was super fun characters, super fun cast, and just really empowering. It's a great story.
What about one that you've seen? Have you had a theater experience that has really impacted you?
Yeah, I think I saw Les Mis when I was 17, and that just on Broadway, and that just like I think again just stirred up the
What is
just
that
kind
about?
of stirred something
Les Mis?
inside.
Have you seen the movie? You've never seen
Yeah.
the movie, George? Oh, bro,
Oh.
it's beautiful.
What is it about?
It's like about the French Revolution.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah, and like a love story within it, but
yeah, maybe it's not the French Revolution, but it takes place in France. Funnily enough, everybody has a British accent.
You said like the
Les
Miserables?
Miserables. Les Miserables.
Oh yeah, I've heard. Yeah, I've seen.
Les
I've seen
Miserables.
the way you guys were pronouncing it, I was like,
in Miami, it's Les
thought you guys were saying-
Miserables.
I thought you guys said Lin Mays or something.
Les Mis. Les Mis. That's what people call it. Les Mis.
Oh, it's like a shorter version.
Yeah.
like the nickname for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm not hip to that. I wasn't hip to that.
Yeah, because in Miami,
Yeah, that's good.
If I ask my mom, she goes, Les Miserables. I'm like, yes, mother. That's for sure. That's
The one.
But did you see it with Ramin Carmelu? The guy, did he play?
yes,
Oh,
yeah. That made me, for a moment at that time, I was like, oh my gosh, maybe I want to do like Broadway and musicals. And then I remembered you have to be like an amazing singer and a prima ballerina to do Broadway. And I was like, But when I saw it, I was like, and I would love to do a show again one day. And I do want to definitely do theater again eventually. But yeah.
have you been to any theater out here in LA?
Just like small local
things.
I haven't seen. I don't think I found the good pocket of theater.
Pasadena Playhouse is incredible.
Okay.
It's
noted.
It's been there for over 100 years. I saw Alfred Molina in The Father there. Unbelievable.
Cool.
And then Center Theater Group in LA. Those are the people that do like the Mark Taper Forum, the Geffen, all these big things. So those are the
I wanted to ask earlier, how is the theater scene out in LA, or like just on the West Coast in general?
Well, West Coast there's a lot of good theater, sort of like in Oregon. There's a lot of like Shakespeare theater that happens there, and Seattle has really good theater as well. But LA is weird because there's actually more theaters in LA than there are in New York per capita. There's more theaters in LA.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Interesting.
But it doesn't feel like it does it.
No, you can't get anybody to go watch theater here. It's really, really hard to get people, again, because LA's so spread out. If you live in Venice and somebody's doing a show in Pasadena, good luck.
It's
good
so
luck.
true.
Good luck trying to get somebody to go there. Whereas in New York, this is what I mean about New York. In New York, people walk everywhere. They get on the trains. So they'll just hop on a train and go because they don't have to drive, right? They still have to make an effort, but they go over there. It's more communal as well in that sense, because after you go out with people, right? You're like, all right, I'm gonna go home. I have to get this train to this train to this train. The other person's like, oh, bro, I have to get on that train too. Let's just get it together. All right, cool. And you go
Yeah.
together. Whereas
Yeah.
here, it's like, all right, everybody, love y'all, peace, and you all get in your cars and go your separate ways.
Yeah.
You know? So
seems like you gotta like jump through more hoops and ladders in the LA like transit system.
it's just more spread out, and it's not LA is not one city. There's so many. Each pocket is its own city. Santa Monica is its own city. You know, Hollywood, own city. West Hollywood, own city.
Yeah.
It's not like you go to one central location. And if and that's the difference in New York, is that New York is that way as well. However, it's connected through that transit system. So it's
100%.
easier for people to get connected. So anyways, that was a long-winded answer. But the theater out here, there's some phenomenal theater. There really is. It's just not it's a film town, you know? It's not it's not a theater town. That's why I'm really happy that we were able to talk about technique and stuff like that, because I feel like a lot of times just the whole notion of the craft is discounted. You know, they think that you just show up on set and you just do it. And it's like, to a certain degree, that's true. But you also have to have the foundation of the craft in it. So
it makes such a difference. You can even see it in other actors, I feel like, too. A lot of the time, if I'm watching somebody or working with somebody, I'm like, dang, you got something. And you end up, and I research them or I talk to them, I'm like, oh, they have a really good foundation of the craft, and that comes through.
Yeah. It's something that's very apparent. You're right. And so let me ask you this then. What is your, I'm kind of going on a tangent, and we talked about this with other actors as well. What are some of the your favorite directions to receive from a director? What's good direction for you, and what's bad direction for you to receive from directors, if you have?
Yeah. I think good direction is them kind of giving me, maybe like talking to me about my character and maybe like a thought they would be having, or things like that. And I think bad direction is like, you know, the silly ones, like be more sad or like cry, or like I really hate when they're like, can you like make this face again? I'm like, I didn't even realize I was making that face, and now I'm like up in my head. So I don't like that, but I really like getting direction of them talking to me about my character, what my character would be feeling, because then I can think, okay, like this is what I'm feeling, and however that physically expresses itself is how it expresses itself without me being conscious of it. The minute I start thinking about the way I look or I get in my head and the performance is shot. So
it's pretty similar to what Isaac you said, where you're like, I don't want the director to tell me to be more mad, or the one time you said, give, like, he has it coming to him, give it to him right now. Someone on set you had to be angry at. So it's cool to see.
Put him in his place. Put him in his place.
That's what it was.
I understand. I can understand somebody that tells
it's like
me
a thought, like what she said.
Yes.
It's like a thought.
Yeah.
Well, and it's different. The way that Sophie would put you in your place versus the way that I would put you in your place is different. So you leave the interpretation up to the actor. You're letting the actor be the actor. But if somebody goes, yeah, you know, I loved it when you clenched your fist and you went like that to him. Can you clench your fist and do that again to him? And it's like,
can't replicate that natural gesture I just did.
Yeah, what are you talking about? I don't even know what you're talking about. You know, this is you're no longer. I'm a mannequin at this point. You know, I'm a marionette. Now you're like basically just doing that to me versus allowing the actor to do that. You know.
I had a question earlier. What do you guys do on your off time to get away from acting, if you feel like you have to get away from it, or just that process of, because it can be very draining, I'm pretty sure, to go through that process a lot of times of learning a character, growing with that character, like throwing yourself in an identity of that character for you know, when you're acting. So that's pretty exhausting, probably the beginning, middle, and throughout of the whole thing. So what do you do to kind of recharge and take a step back from all of that commitment you're putting into a character?
Yeah, I think for me, it kind of comes down to stuff we've touched on earlier, like having daily habits that like keep me sane. I think that's so important. Just like making sure I take care of Sophie first, because you can only come to your craft as whole as you are as a person. And any creative industry, as like silly as it is, those little habits, they like make or break you. Like it really is so important to take care of yourself and eat healthy and work out and journal and just figure out what makes you feel good. So I'm really big on that, those like daily habits. And then as for like when I need to take a break, I really am somebody that I need to like physically kind of get away from LA and get away from acting every few months, to be honest, whether that's going home to Michigan or taking a weekend trip to Orange County. Like, I literally have to physically exit this space. And it always makes me nervous because I'm like, ooh, what if I book something, like whatever? But it always ends up being worth it because I fill my cup up again. I remember that, okay, I'm actually a human being. Like, that's my identity. I'm Sophie Jordan Collins. I'm not an actor first. I'm a person first. And I get so lost in like the hustle and like you're talking about lost in the sauce here that I quite literally have to get away because I don't feel like I can fully relax here, as crazy as that sounds.
Yeah.
So yeah.
You mentioned something I have a question about, but Isaac, how about for you? Like, what do you do?
Don't forget your question, first and foremost.
I won't.
Okay. Something that you said is 100% something I've learned. You can never give from an empty cup.
Yeah.
You have to fill up your cup. And I really believe that in this industry, the people that give are the ones that truly are sustainable. I think that having that spirit of offering is much more noble than taking. And I think that's in the abundance mindset as well. So anyways, you're 100% correct. To answer your question, George, I have to leave LA. I have to get out. And when I first was here, this was before the pandemic. So every rep, everybody's always like, you can't go anywhere. You can't go anywhere. You have to stay here. You have to be in LA. You can't go. You have to stay here. You have to stay. So you feel like you have to stay because, oh my God, this could be my break. No one job is going to make or break your career. It's the 20 jobs that you have over 20 years that build a career. Every overnight success happened over 20 years. 100%. It's a 20-year overnight success. It's never, I mean, sure, there's some people that are hot, flash in a pan, whatever. But that is the exception to the rule. God bless them. That is not the way that it is. It is the consistent work. So anyways, getting out of LA, going to nature, hiking, right? Have to do that. Talking to my friends and shit like that. My wife and I always say, even just a staycation, just to get out. And it's funny. We always say, if you haven't had an audition in a while, you want an audition, book a trip and go on a trip. Because the second that you leave, it's like the law of attraction, like when you like somebody and they don't like you and they're like, oh, I don't like you anymore. They're like, wait a second. Because now I like you, it just is what it is. But you have to take care of your own soul first. That's goes back to what we were talking about in terms of you saying no to certain things. Never subject your soul to something that's going to deteriorate it, because it's not worth it. At the end of the day, it's really not worth it to do something that you're going to look back on and you get to the mountaintop, but you hate yourself when you're at the mountaintop. I don't think that that's, personally, for me in my journey, something that I am ever going to subscribe to. I'm never going to do something in which I will subject my soul to torture or do something that's going to compromise. That's the word I was looking for. Compromise myself and for who I am, or compromise the things that are the most important to me. So anyways, that's a long-winded answer, but getting out, camping, going into nature, into God, and just like and focusing on what's real, go outside and focus on some real things. Like the sun on your face, maybe go somewhere where it's raining, the rain on your skin, go somewhere where it's snowing, like go and smell some fresh air with trees around you, go and whatever, dude, just get out and realize that life is not as, we say this to each other all the time, my wife and I, you're not that important. And that's in the nicest way possible.
So true. Yeah.
You're really not that important. To remember that and remember the things that are important, are kind of the things that I do. Anyways, so go ahead with your question, George.
That's real. So I've heard about this mysterious place, not mysterious, but really cool place from time to time from people. And it's what you said in your specifically what you go travel, Sophie, is to the OC. What is it about the OC for you? I've seen it on TV, growing up and stuff, but I don't think I've ever been. But I know it's probably like a very easy answer. But what is it about the OC for you guys? It sounds like a nice getaway from, like you said, from LA and getting away and just experiencing time there. What is that? What is it for you, at least?
Yeah. Well, next time you're in the area, George, you should go to OC because it's actually not that far from LA if you leave early or late.
Yeah.
But the vibes there, it's so funny. It's like 40 minutes from where I live in no traffic if I go super early. If you hit rush hour, it can literally be 3 hours. It's crazy. But the vibes there, it's closer to the water. It's much
Mhm.
more like, I don't know if you've been to San Diego, but it's similar to that where it's more like suburb like. It's
Mhm.
also just more beautiful than LA. LA is so like city, and you have like a building that has like a liquor store, a nail salon, like a sushi place all in one. I'm like, there's not even enough room for this. So LA can like just feel crowded and icky, whereas in OC everything's a bit more spread out. People are more chill. It's more of like a family town, more beach vibes. It just overall feels slower paced to me. And it reminds me more so, honestly, of like Michigan and where I grew up. And I think that's why it feels like a little bit of a safe haven to me. I also have some good friends, even some like childhood friends that ended up moving to OC as well. So just going there and seeing them is really nice too. But yeah, just a different energy there.
I agree. It's to me, it's a suburb feel, and it's very
Yeah.
close to the water. And it, for instance, in the OC, we used to have friends that lived down there. They don't live there anymore, but uh, you'd walk outside and a neighbor would be like, "Hey, how's your day going?" And you're like,
Yeah.
"You talking
You're
to
talking to
me?
me?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Wow, thank you. My day's, it's not bad. How you doing? Nah, not bad. Good to see. Good to see you too. Have a good day. Bye."
I know.
And in LA, you tell somebody, "Hey, how's it going?" They're like, "Hmm."
Right.
If they
Barely
even
like,
do that, if they even do that,
yeah.
if they even do that. So again, it sounds like we're shitting on LA. LA has a lot of beautiful things, beautiful people. It's just there's so many people. That's the thing for me. There's so many
Yeah.
people that it's hard sometimes. And that's
Mhm.
why we need
Yeah.
to get out. That's why I like NorCal personally. Like I
Yeah.
love
Yep.
NorCal. Love
NorCal's beautiful
NorCal.
too.
It's gorgeous. So we're at an hour 25, and I don't want to take up too much of everybody's time. We got a little game going on today. We got a little Super Bowl action. So we always close out our interviews with a couple of questions. I'll ask mine, and then George will ask his. Now,
Okay.
for me, my question, I've always had this idea of a steel tissue in my head. And what I mean by that is a tissue can satisfy two things. It can wipe away blood and it can wipe away a tear. Okay.
Mm.
I just thought you can also wipe away snot if you have snot. That's a whole nother tangent. Anyways, in order to be in this life in general, to be honest, but specifically an artist's life, you got to be resilient and you got to be vulnerable, in my estimation. So, my question to you, and you don't have to be super deep about it, if you can go as deep as you want, but what are some things in your life that have made you the most resilient and that have made you the most vulnerable in your life?
Mm. Yeah, I think my whole and we briefly touched on it, but just the way I grew up in terms of my parents both having other stuff to deal with, that I kind of had to be like more independent and less of a burden, and wasn't like super close with my parents and things like that. It really made me resilient and made me independent at a young age, which I don't think I would be where I am today without that. So I'm quite grateful for that. I think that did make me really resilient. Um, and I think too that there was also some pain involved with that, which I think also has helped me to be soft in a sense as well. And I think that I didn't deal with that pain for a long time. My coping mechanism very much is to be very, very busy too. And so sometimes I don't fully deal with things and can just kind of block them out, and then later on they can manifest. But because of that, because it is my innate nature to just keep going, 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 sometimes I can almost become hardened, and it's hard for me to deal with my emotions because of that. So it's like a double-edged sword. There was a period in my life when I was in college where I quite literally didn't cry for 11 months because I was so much in survival mode that I just didn't have time to like deal with my emotions, which that's
Wow.
really weird for me. I am a crier. I'm an empath. I'm an actor. And I cry a lot now, which has helped me let out. But yeah.
That was beautiful. And that was very honest. Thank you. Thank you for
Hmm.
being open. I know that, it's hard for people to even be open. So I appreciate that. Thank you for allowing us to see that about you.
In a weird
All
way,
right.
Yeah.
that made me smile. The ending of that she didn't cry for 11 months, but it was like that's beauty, and there's beauty in that too, of like just going and going and going.
It's true. Yeah, I don't regret that time. And I do think sometimes you need to be in survival and in grind mode like that, which I think a lot of people look at that like it's a negative thing, but I actually do think that's necessary
You
sometimes.
have to. You have
Yeah,
to.
yeah.
And you learn from it. Life is about
Hmm.
cycles. Life is about cycles.
Exactly.
The older
Yep.
I get, I'm like, oh, it's a revolving door. So that's again
Yep.
another tangent. George, close us out, people.
So the closing question is very simple. It's kind of in the same breath as Isaac's is, if you want to go deep on it, you can. If not, it's just how you're feeling in the moment. But it's basically, it's not even a question, it's fill in the blanks. My name is blank and I am blank, or my name is blank and I blank. So
The first thing that comes to mind is my name is Sophie and I'm a human being.
Oh my.
Weirdly enough. Yeah, just because, again, like as creatives, sometimes we find our identity in what we do, and it's like, nah, you're just a person. That's all you are.
It's just a
That's all I
carcass.
am.
We're good old meat sacks. That is, it never ceases to amaze me how profound people are with that question that George asks. It never ceases to amaze me. Thank you so much for spending your Sunday with us, for spending an hour and a half talking to us. This is your time. You have that camera there. You have that camera there. You have that camera there. Yeah, you got cameras all around.
They're everywhere, listening all the time.
Go ahead and promote whatever you want to promote, whatever you want to plug, whatever you want to talk about. Leave the little people of the Café Con podcast listeners with whatever you want to leave them with.
Yeah, well, first off, I just want to thank you, Isaac and George, for having me. And also, I want to thank you guys for this podcast because it is so fun. Even as I was listening to you guys, it is just like two bros on FaceTime with each other and you guys bring in these creatives. But it's just so fun. And I'm sure out there's for sure some people that are probably like really lonely. You guys know how life gets and they're like listening to your podcast and it just feels like you guys are, those people's friends and they can kind of just, have you there. So what you guys are doing is really, really special. And thank you for having me.
Appreciate that.
As for like things to plug, I mean, I'm kind of all over. I'm on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube. You guys can look up Sophie Jordan Collins. I do a lot of acting content, just kind of vlogging. My big thing is I just like to document the actor life and like show people what it's really like out here. And like, if you genuinely have a passion for acting and to be a creative, you can do it. And so I like to kind of give advice and document my life. So yeah, Sophie Jordan Collins across all platforms.
And listen to her podcast.
Yeah.
Acting like an actor.
That's true too. Thank you guys. I do have a podcast, Acting Like an Actor.
Yes, you do, and it's a very good podcast. I love listening to it. I listened to a couple.
I listened to a little recently. A little recently.
Yeah, it was really great. I'm telling you,
good. That was
beautiful set, very articulate. You carry conversations very well. Thank you again.
Yeah,
this was a pleasure. God bless everybody. Let's go.
It's a special one, I think. We don't do many on Sunday, but this was a good one.
We don't.
Thank you guys.
Good one on the Lord's Day. So it was awesome. Thank you so much. And peace and love, everybody.
Yeah.
Peace
Bye, guys.
Bye.
This is the Café Con Podcast.